I've already completed my first book for my 2024 book challenge, so today I'm going to review that book. Hi there, I'm Linda Maxey, the author of the Library Lend Guides to Great Nonfiction Books and to Great Biographies, Autobiographies, and Memoirs. For my first video in 2024, I laid out a personal challenge to myself for 20 books that I plan to read in 2024. First 10 books had to come from a pile of books that I already own. There are around 60 or so books in that pile, and so it's going to take me a while to get through them, but I thought I would get a good chunk out of the way first thing. So the first book that I had to tackle this year was the book that had been laying in that pile the longest. And for me, that book was Great Minds Don't Think Alike by Emily Gosling. I purchased this book from Dedalus Books back in 2019. That's a great place to buy discounted quality books, and I'll link it below. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I think they're great, and I've purchased a lot of books from them over the years. This book has been in my pile for 4 years, making it one of the longest I've owned. It's nowhere near the oldest book in my pile, and it does not have the earliest copyright date. This book was first published in 2018 by Ilix, I may be not saying that right, a UK publisher. It was distributed in the US through Hachette Group. It's a creatively arranged work about creative people from all times and all areas of art. Here's a look at the unusual table of contents. My only lament is that there are no actors and very few choreographers included. I would have enjoyed learning more about those arts. But other than that, it's a really interesting, though not at all demanding book. It was the perfect book to start the year off with. It's a warm-up, if you will. Gosling provides a brief introduction to the book in which she lays out what she hopes to impart. Each creative genius included is provided with a 2-page spread. They aren't arranged by the type of work they do, nor are they alphabetical. I'm not sure how she arranged it. The order seems to be as quirky as creativity itself. Each entry has an illustration provided by Modern Activity and a 1-page summary of the author's work and what they credited their unique output to. These could be routines, they could be objects, ways of looking at the world, all sorts of stuff. I found each entry interesting. Though being short, none of them completely satisfied my itch to know more. I always want more details about how people come up with ideas and develop the ones they discover. But that, in a way, was also what I liked about it. It's not intended to be comprehensive. It's intended to be a survey. You could read this book just as an interesting break, sort of a palate cleanser between other topics you're exploring. I mean, I think it would be perfectly fine for that. But I think for a creative person, it provides 56 different suggestions to explore the creative process. In the upper right corner of each right-hand page, she provides a short phrase to summarize the author's process. For instance, with Agatha Christie, the phrase is numerous notebooks. Then when you read the entry, Gosling tells how Christie used her notebooks to good effect. But as the title indicates, not all creatives are fans of notebooks. Their preferences and methods vary wildly. Like Andy Warhol, whose method and inspiration involved what Gosling labeled wild companions. I guess wild companions certainly could provide inspiration if you're the right sort of person. For me, one of the most interesting, though, was the author of French masterpieces like Cousin Bette, Honoré de Balzac, who used caffeine, coffee especially, to fuel his creative output. Now, I know a lot of creatives might think, well, big whoop, I mean, you know, I'm creative and I use coffee too, but you probably don't use it the way he did. He drank sometimes 50 cups of coffee a day. And as you probably guessed, he had a very unorthodox sleep schedule to go with it. While this worked well for him as a writer, it must be noted that he suffered from symptoms related to his heavy caffeine consumption, like migraines and high blood pressure, and he died at age 51, which is very young. It's likely he burnt himself out. I've switched to decaf recently, and I don't envy him that lifestyle. She also uses artists like Yoko Ono, who created art with the participation of her audiences. I think that's a pretty brave thing to do. Like a show she did in the 1960s called Cut Piece. For this exhibition, Ono sat in a gallery without speaking. The audience was instructed to take scissors and cut pieces from her clothing. In this way, what was created was a joint effort between the artist who provided the medium and the audience who provided the action. Gosling says this is a case of art created through a willingness for the artist to cede control. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I do try to keep an open mind. As I was saying earlier, I think this is an interesting book for people who aspire to be more creative. It gives you truly 56 different methods that have worked for others as creative catalysts. Some, like the artist Francis Bacon, aren't methods I'd like to try. She calls his method Embrace Chaos, and Bacon credited his creativity to late nights, gambling, and hangovers. I don't think that would work for me. But others, like Edgar Allan Poe, I found to be surprising and maybe worth a shot. Poe's method, according to a piece that he wrote himself, was to begin at the end. In other words, he wanted to figure out the mood he wanted his audience to be in when they finished his products and work backward from there. But then Gosling does say that T.S. Eliot found Poe's explanation of his method so unlikely that it was possibly written as satire. Like so much about Poe, it's mysterious and fascinating. Anyway, I'd recommend this book for anyone who's interested in the creative process. While it's not meant to be a how-to book, you're sure to find at least a few ideas to inspire you. So that's it for today. I've moved on now to my second nonfiction book for 2024. A book that takes place outside North America or Europe. For that one, I chose Krakatoa by Simon Winchester. It's about the Indian Ocean volcanic island that had a massive, devastating eruption in 1883. I'll talk about it in a future video. For the next video, I'm going to talk about the next chapter in How to Read a Book, The Classic Guide to Intelligent Reading by Mortimer J. Adler and Charles Van Doren. We're going to talk about how to criticize a work fairly. That should be interesting. So until next time, happy reading.